But starting off, Carrie Lukas is on the line with us. Carrie is the president of the Independent Women's Forum, the author of Checking Progressive Privilege, a Mom of Five. IWF.org is the website. Carrie Lukas, C-A-R-R-I-E-L-U-K-A-S, is her Twitter handle. Carrie, welcome back. It's been a while since we've talked. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And you know, happy Thursday. My question is, shouldn't we join the rest of the developed world in protecting and nurturing our children during their most critical developmental period, you know, the first 3 months of their lives? Shouldn't we be providing women who were in the workplace and want to take 3 months off to care for their children? Shouldn't we be making that possible by at least giving them some support? We being the government?
Yeah. I mean, I think that when we talk about paid leave, I think it's really important to talk about what already exists and where the holes are. Because you're right, there are too many people who fall through the cracks of our paid leave system, and we should be trying to find ways to help, especially low-income women who don't have resources, don't have jobs that provide paid time off. We all want them to be able to take time off after they have a new baby or for other legitimate family purposes. But I think we also make sure we don't disrupt. Obviously we do have a lot of people out there. I bet most listeners, if you are working, if you have a job, most private employers provide paid time off. There's a lot of people out there who are happy with their existing benefit structures, and I think we should make sure that we don't disrupt that, because I do think there's a real fear. Because a lot of people will end up being worse off, and we've seen this.
Wait a minute, Carrie. You're saying that if Joe Biden's plan passes and women get 12 weeks of 3/4 of their regular salary, but they're getting it from the government instead of their employer, during that time that they're off work, the employer is not hurt by this. They don't have to pay the employee, and they don't have to pay the government. They just have to figure out what to do for 12 weeks while that person is home with their kids. Yeah, and I don't know if most employers, I think you're right, offer some sort of paid leave, although about half of America's employees, certainly low-income employers, offer nothing or very little. But typically the most you get is a couple of weeks. Why not blow up 2 weeks and replace it with 12 weeks? It doesn't make any sense what you're saying.
Well, to start with, I bet Tom, I think that you do need to be careful in making assumptions. Because one thing that you've seen is we talk about 3/4 of pay, which is about what would be replaced. Right. There are a lot of people out there who right now have 6 weeks off. I'm a small employer. I employ about 20 women. I have people. It's all women. We have a lot of people have babies, and we provide 6 weeks off at full pay.
That's unusual.
And then we.
Congratulations on you, but that's unusual. If you worked at McDonald's, you would not be getting 6 weeks off with pay.
Sure.
Or at Walmart.
Absolutely. If I worked at McDonald's or Walmart, if you worked at McDonald's or Walmart, if you are a low income, and we absolutely, Tom, I'm 100% with you when we talk about trying to help low income folks have better support systems. But let's remember, right now there's state paid leave, there are government paid leave programs in several states, and that covers something like 1/4 of all workers are already covered by a state paid leave system.
In blue states.
We do need to be. Fine. In blue states, fine. But do you...
So what about the poor women in red states? Carrie, you're a conservative.
Okay, well, fine. And I do think...
How many employers do you think in Mississippi and Alabama offer anything?
There's a lot of, Tom, you need to, if you look at the data, if you look at the Census Bureau and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, most people do have access to paid time off. It's not always sufficient, and we do need to find more ways to help people. But something you should be real careful about is looking at, can you please let me finish and just let me make one quick point.
Yeah.
So if you look at the state paid leave programs, what you will find is that it is almost overwhelmingly, people who are higher income are much more likely to take the benefits than people who have lower income.
Right.
This is also the same in Europe, because if you're just getting by, having something that provides 3/4 of your pay you can't take off that time. So in California, they've found, because remember, this money comes from somewhere, and the way that it's paid for is by a payroll tax. So let's remember that every single worker will be paying a payroll tax on every dollar they earn. So every worker will be paying for this. those who take it will be taking money out. But what we've seen, and this is actually, there's interesting studies about what happens in the EU, and they've found that it is a transfer of wealth from poor to rich because of who ends up taking it. Your higher income folks are more likely to make use of the benefits. I think we should be fine. Let's talk about solving the problems, but not. Tom, I can send you the link. There's a lot of very interesting research. It's the same in Rhode Island and California and New Jersey.
I think, yeah, and I'm sure you can find, anecdotal evidence of that, that may be the exception that proves the rule. But the bottom, what we're talking about here is every developed country in the world except the United States provides government-supported paid leave for people, for women who are, and many of them for husbands too. If they want to be the caregiver, and this isn't just for children. This is also for bereavement, for people being victims of sexual assault or domestic violence, for a loved one's military deployment. We're saying, let's join the rest of the world and give that spouse, give that partner, give that family 12 weeks
every year
of space.
For essentially any reason. You can't be like, everybody should not work for 3 months every year.
It's not every
Here's
reason.
the thing, Tom.
These are the reasons why people take time off.
But here's something you should know, and I do think that people should be careful of what they wish for, especially women out there, because you're right. Women in Europe do enjoy tremendous family benefits, but you know what? They also have larger wage gaps, and they are much less likely than American women to be in management.
That has nothing to do with
this. As an employer. No, yes, it does. The OECD, come to visit us at IWF.org. You will see links both on the redistributional effects of paid leave programs, which show that it hurts poor people and helps rich people. And then also it looks at, in the OECD countries, women are much less likely to reach upper management. And as somebody, if you actually are thinking about hiring somebody for a job of responsibility, if you think a childbearing year woman or a woman with a bunch of kids, like me, I got 5 kids, I have a lot of reasons to take off. My kids are sick a lot. There's a lot of things that go wrong. A lot of employers, if they knew that any time I might take off 3 months for one of these reasons, they're not going to give me a position of authority. Big companies may be able to.
But it covers men as well as women, Carrie.
But men don't use it as much, Tom. And they don't use it in EU. They don't use it in the EU as much, and they wouldn't use it here as much, and employers will know it.
Yeah, well, that's a whole completely separate issue. I mean, if that's the side effect of this, and it's widespread, and I'm not believing it is, but if that's the side effect and it's widespread, then you deal with that. But right now, we've got people who, we're hurting our children, Carrie.
Do you think you think government should be paying for people who are in the top 1%?
I think that
people should be paying payroll taxes for a woman making $1 million a year.
I don't think that a woman making $1 million, sure, yeah. See, this is your argument. Should Charles Koch get Social Security? Yes, he should.
1%.
Yes, he's a billionaire.
Are you kidding? Yeah.
Yes,
well,
of course.
That's
why it's called an entitlement. Everyone's entitled to it.
For the ultra wealthy.
There you go. Carrie Lukas. Hang on just a second, Carrie.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Carrie Lewis with the Independent Women's Forum, IWF.org. Check it out, and you can tweet her at Carrie Lukas. Thanks, Carrie.